All right. It's another Friday. I think I'm live everywhere. And I'm about to do another coding challenge. So I'm gonna try to start doing these every week. Appreciate if you can join and walk with me through this coding challenge and hopefully everything goes smooth. I done this one pretty recently or very recently actually. So we'll see how it goes, see what I retained. I'm gonna try to explain what I'm doing as clear as possible, and try to teach while I'm actually teaching myself here a little bit. But yeah, that's how I do these. So appreciate you guys joining. I'm gonna get started real soon. I'm gonna give a couple seconds just to let everything connect. I'm using KG.codes. And this problem I'm gonna do tonight is called contains duplicate 2. So this is the second problem, or smaller, a little bit harder problem than the contain duplicates one that I've done before. It's considered easy on LeetCode.com, but I mean, to me, it's more of like a medium because it has kind of like an easy solution, and then it has kind of like a more complicated solution that's more optimal, that's better on space and time, or better on space complexity actually. And so I think it's an interesting one to do, even though it's considered an easy. I think it's more like a medium level problem. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna jump into the problem. Hope everybody can hear me. Last time I had some sound issues, but hopefully this time it's not the case. So and yeah, if you want to join me on other channels, I'm live streaming on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, TikTok, a bunch of different places. So anywhere you want to join me, you can switch over to it. And yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna jump into the problem here. This problem is called contains duplicate 2. It's considered easy on LeetCode.com is what I'm using to do these problems. And the problem goes as such: given an integer array nums and an integer k, return true if there are two distinct indices I and j in the array such that nums I equals nums j. Basically just saying that the values at these two spots, these two indexes in the array, are equal. And the absolute value of I minus j, which I guess the distance between these two indices, is less than or equal to k. So I hope that makes sense. I'll leave this up so you guys can reread it. They have some examples here of one array, nums array with 1, 2, 3, and 1 in it, and the k is 3. And so what they're saying is that, like, to explain this in maybe more layman's terms, what they're saying is that give me true or false if there are duplicates in this array that are less than 3 distance apart. So in this case, the duplicates are 1 and 1, and they are less than 1, 2, 3. They are less than or equal to k, which is 3 distance apart. So the answer is true. And then if you look at this false one down here, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the distance they want you to check is 2. And you see that none of these duplicates are within 2 of each other. This 1 and this 1 are 3 apart. This 3 and this 3 are 3 apart. And this 2 and this 2 are 3 apart. So no duplicates in this array are within 2 spaces from each other in distance. So it's like a really complicated way of saying that. When I first read this problem, the way this problem's written, it can really trip you up in an interview, because it's like they could have explained it a lot more simpler to me. I don't know what y'all think, but that's how I felt about it. So anyway, yeah, that's how the problem goes. There's constraints down here basically saying nums will always have at least 1 in it, and it will never be greater than 10 to the 5th power. The numbers inside nums can be negative all the way to 10 to the 9th power, or they can be 10 to the 9th power positive. And then k will always be, it could be 0, or it could be 10 to the 5th power. It's somewhere in between that range. So this is always important to remember in an interview, because it may come up, especially if these constraints aren't existent or they're large. You may need to ask about these in an interview. You may not be given these, and sometimes they can change how you solve the problem based off of how much whether or not you're going to overflow an integer or overflow a double, based on how big these numbers can get. So yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, and without further ado, I guess I can try to talk about how I would go about solving this. So, like when I first looked at this problem, what I thought the first thing that came to mind is when you're trying to find duplicates. I've done contains duplicates one before, so that would make me think like to try to do some solution similar to that. And I know to find a duplicate, usually you use a data structure like a map or a set. And so the first thing that came to my mind was a map. The set probably would have been better to like loop through, put all the numbers in the set, and then if you see a duplicate, then you got your duplicate there. But with this problem, you actually need to test like whether the distance between the duplicates is less than or equal to the k value. And so it's a little bit more complicated than that. And so how can we, one, find a duplicate, and then two, make sure that the distance isn't like greater than this value of k? And so the way we can do that is we can use a map or we can use a set. I'm trying to think, should I go through like the map solution first and then try to optimize it using the set, or should I just go straight to the set solution? I think I would do maybe a set solution. I got to see some questions here on Instagram. Is this an interview challenge? Yes, this is something that they would ask in a technical interview for a software engineering position. Not all companies ask it. Just most of the big ones ask it, like Google, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and some of like the mid-tier companies. Most of the named companies that you recognize like in your daily life, they, for their software engineers, probably ask these questions, but not all. It's starting to change a little bit. And then even some small companies ask. It just depends on the company, really. But something you kind of got to practice. Yeah, you said as a beginner, I would do a loop. Yes, definitely going to be a loop. I think I'm going to try to start with the set. So I'm going to try to do a set. So what a set is that when you put an item in a set, the set only holds unique values. And so what you can do when you put something in a set, you can check the set to see if that value's already been entered in. And if it's been entered in, we know we have a duplicate. But how can we know that there is only k space between the two duplicates? So it's got to be less than or equal to k. So I'm gonna start programming this out, and then we're just gonna work through it together until it makes sense. And so the first thing I said is we're gonna use a set. So let's just create a set in JavaScript. I'm using JavaScript as my language of choice. It's the one I'm most strongest in for coding interviews. So that's what I'm going to use. So yeah, set equals new set. And my bad, I'm trying to read the comments, but it's tough, man. Like trying to read the comments and look at this at the same time. So just bear with me. Yeah. And so yeah, I'm going to set up a set. Then, like somebody said, I'm going to do a for loop. So I'm going to set up my iterator. Less than or equal to nums.length I++. This is just how you do a for loop in JavaScript. And so what do I need to do? I got a set here. And what a set does is when you add things to a set, set holds unique values. So when you add things to a set, like if you add a 1, a 0, and you add another 0, you already have a 0 in the set, so you can't add another one. It needs to be unique values added to the set. And so a set in JavaScript has certain properties, like you can add things to a set, you can check if the set has certain things, and you can delete things from a set. So the main thing that I want to check here after I get in this loop, I want to check if my set has, which that means is this included in the set, the number that is at, so my iterator is I. So if I do nums bracket I bracket, that gives me the value that's currently at I. I want to check if the set my number. If the set has my number, then I know I have a duplicate. So what I actually want to do is just go ahead and return true in that case, and we'll sort out like how that works later. And so then the next thing I want to do, if it's not in the set, I actually want to add it to the set. And shoot, I don't forgot what the how you add to a set actually. Shoot, I think it's add, or is it set? I think it's add. Yeah, I think it's add to a set, but we'll find out sooner or later for sure. And so then I'll add this number to the set. And then if I get out of here, if I never hit this true, then I know I didn't find any duplicates. So I'm going to return false. And so this code is pretty simple. I have a set. If I have if I find something is in the set already, I return true. If not, then I add it to the set and I just loop through again. And then once I get done with this loop, then I return false. Now this is wrong because this doesn't even take account of K, but I just want to kind of set the stage for at least the basics of how I want to solve this problem. So I want to run this and show what happens. So in LeetCode, you can run against test cases here. So actually for these test cases, it was successful. And this is kind of something that might happen in an interview. If you're running, you try a solution out, you run it and it doesn't work and you have test cases that fail. So if you see case 1, 2, and 3, case 1 and 2 passed, case 3 failed. And so I can see here based on my code, when I have 1, 2, 3, and 1, it's going to, if I kind of trace this by hand, when I loop through this array, I have 1 first, which is not in the set, so it gets added to the set. And then I loop again, I get 2, it's not in the set, so I add it to the set down here. I get 3, it's not in the set, so I skip this and I add it to the set. Then when I get to 1, it's in the set, so then I return true. And so because K is equal to 3, then I go ahead and the answer is true because the distance between 1 and 1 is less than or equal to 3. I got lucky basically, and the output is true and expect the output is true. But on 3, the reason it fails is because I return true, but the expected answer is false, and that's because I'm not taking into account K. And so I found a duplicate as soon as I looped through and hit 1 again. I found a duplicate, but the distance between it is greater than 2. And that's not, the problem says the distance needs to be less than or equal to K. So, which is 2 in that case. So the question is, if you get stuck here, how do you solve this? How do you solve this problem of this third case being false where you're not taking account of K? And I think that's the next part. Well, that's definitely the next part we need to solve. So let's solve that together. And let me read some comments because I know it's hard to focus on all this stuff and read the comments. What programming language is this? JavaScript. Bro, I'm dealing with outputting files in C++. Hey. Oh, you talking to somebody else? Yeah, keep going, dude. Bro, you are lit. Appreciate that. And do you ever write pseudocode before trying to implement solution? So yeah, I actually in an interview, I'm glad you said that. In an interview, I would definitely write pseudocode first. When I'm doing these lives, I usually just kind of talk through it first. That may be something I start trying to do in the lives though. Is actually just write the pseudocode first. Why is it trying to make me invite somebody on here? This thing need to get out of the way. Yeah, but I usually just talk through the solution. If I was in an interview, I'd probably write down pseudocode for sure. Unless I can clearly explain to the interviewer my thinking and I feel like they understand it, I may not write the pseudocode. But it just depends, man. But I mean, it's good practice to do that. Definitely good practice to do that first. But this is so, this start of this was so simple. It's almost really close to being pseudocode, really, because it's so simple. I think if I was doing like a hard or a medium LeetCode problem, like the pseudocode would kind of be a lot more valuable too. So anyway, but that was a great question because that is something super important. So JavaScript looks a lot like Python. I'd probably say JavaScript is like a slightly more verbose look than Python. Python is pretty simple, less verbose, is meaning like less things you have to write. Like I don't think you need semicolons in Python. I've never used Python actually, so I don't really know. I just know what I've seen and heard around. But that's something I'll probably get into one day. I'm just more or less at work and over the course of my career been doing mostly C#, JavaScript, Java, C++. I've been more on that side of things. Done some Ruby before, Swift, Objective-C, done that before. So bounced around different places. Let me see. So yeah, what were I trying to do? Oh yeah, we need to fix this issue with the how we can fix that issue of like not taking into account this K is what's called a sliding window technique. So basically in our set, we only want to look back as far as K is in the set. So we don't want to, like, if we find this one here and then we find a one here as a duplicate, we don't want to look back at this one and say, oh, we found a duplicate. We only want to look, since the K is 2, the distance that we're allowed to look is 2, then we only want to look 2 back. So we only want to look back this range. So as we're building our set, so like when we're looping through up here, we're building a set, right? We build this set, we add 1 to it when we loop, we add 2, we add 3, we add 1 again. What we want to do as we go through this, as we build this set, is whatever the size of K is, our window, quote unquote, that we want to look at, we want to make our set be the size of that window. Or we want to like fix our set to only look back that far. So like when we get to like 2 and 3, we want to like delete 1 out of our set so that we don't look back that far. So then when we get to here, we don't actually find a duplicate because we've deleted the 1 out of our set and we've kind of slid this window along as we're like moving along. And in this case, I think the window will be just the size of like 2, which 1, 2. So it'd actually be like the size of 3. And so that's kind of how you want to do it. So you want to have like this kind of like sliding window every time you're looking. If you can kind of see what I'm doing there. Oh, dang, I screwed it up. But like, yeah, you'd have a window like this and then you'd move it along like that. Kind of like that. So every time I add something to the set, I want to remove the first thing out of the set so that I don't look too far back for duplicates, if that makes sense. I know it may be kind of hard to explain. But yeah, let me move the problem back over so y'all can see the problem. Somebody asked, what's the question? So you can read it there. It's basically called contain duplicates 2. So it's not as easy as contains duplicates 1. I mean, obviously. But yeah, so that's the question for people that's trying to see it. Given the integer nums and a integer array nums and integer K, return true if there are 2 distinct indices in the array such that they equal each other, the numbers at those indices equal each other, and the distance between the indices is less than or equal to K, the absolute value of the difference between I and J, which is basically the distance between them. Which I wish they would have said when they wrote the problem, because they just made it more complicated than it had to be. So anyway, so how would I do that? Like make this sliding window. What I can do is I can check the size of the set. Ooh, and I gotta make sure I know how to do this. I think it's set.size. And I think if it's greater than K, because I don't want it to be greater than K. Because remember our problem said less than or equal to K. It needs to be less than or equal to K. So I don't want my set size. The only thing outside of this is greater than. Less than or equal. The only other thing it can be is greater than. So if I look at this here, then once my set size gets above K, I need to reduce my set size. And so what I can do here, once this size goes greater than K, I can say set, I think it's either delete or remove. I don't remember. I have to try this out. And I want to delete the first number in my set. And so how I can do that, if I know, as soon as I get to this code, I know that I'm at I, right? I'm like at this spot when I add this in. If I subtract K from I, then that gets me back to the first number in the set, and it allows me to delete it. Now this really isn't too intuitive. Like, this is something that I just observed. This is maybe hard to figure out, like, actually in an interview. So this is something like that you may need to memorize, of like how to delete the first item out of a set, based on the size of the set. But I think we got the advantage here is because like I can check as soon as set gets above K, the first time it gets above K, I know that this calculation will give me the first number in the array and allow me to delete it from the set. And so that's what will allow me to have this like sliding window type. So I'll like get here, and then once I get here, I'd like delete the first thing out of the set. And so with this all together, and sorry, let me see if I can make some more room. Yeah. So with this all together, this should allow me to solve the problem successfully. So in an interview scenario, what would usually happen is, and shoot, dang, you might be right. Somebody said num0. I'm trying to, no, it wouldn't be num0. It would be, because what I'm trying to delete from the set is the first number in the set. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. No, it's not always num0. It's a sliding window. So I could be deleting the num0, or I could be deleting the second number. Or I can be deleting the third number, because it needs to slide along the array. But yeah, shoot, I was thinking about that. It almost confused me a little bit when you said that. But yeah, this is why we do these things, to kind of not be confused. So let me see if any more comments or anything that I didn't read. That's a great solution. Appreciate that. Yeah, Python super simple. Let me see what else said on any more comments here. Why wouldn't you just use 0? Yeah, because it's a sliding window. So here, when I get here, I need to delete 0, index 0, 1. But when I get here, I need to delete index 1. When I get here, I need to delete index 2. So it's actually a sliding value that needs to go in here. So that's why it's always I minus K. So you're always going back the size of K and deleting the value that's at the start from the point that you're at in the array. And so that's why it works like that. So, oh man, I don't feel like doing this, but like if you're in an interview, some companies that I've interviewed with, they don't have a code runner to let you run the code. They make you run the code manually by typing variables out. They make you trace through the code in front of them, and they want to see how you trace through code. And so some companies will just let you run it, and it'll have so I'll run it and see what happens. Yep, so all three got accepted. If y'all remember last time, the last case didn't work, but this time all three cases got accepted. So that's great. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, so that they let you run it, but some companies will let you run it and some companies won't. Some companies will make you do tracing. And how I usually do tracing is I use these comments. Shoot, I'm screwing up. And let's just do a little quick trace. I hate doing these, but it's wise to do. So let's say this is the problem. Let's use this test case from case 1. This is the num array. This is what k equals. And then what you want to do is keep track of your variables in the problem, and you want to trace through as you're looking at the variables. So you want to know what nums I is. You might want to know what the set, so you might want to know what the set has in it. So let's say what set has in it. And I think that's all our variables. Yeah, we just have a set. So you basically want to write down all the variables in your algorithm and trace them to make sure you have the right answer. Because sometimes you might want to do this, even if you have a runner, you might want to do this before you run it. So let's run through this and make sure that I did this right in case I couldn't run this in an interview. So we know nums and k get passed in here. We know the set gets initialized here. So those are these three things. And then when we first go through the loop, I is going to be 0. And then set, we check if set has nums I. Nums I is what's in nums at index 0 is 1. So let's make that 1. So we keep track of that. Does the set have a 1 in it? The set is empty right now. It doesn't have a 1. So we're going to skip this condition right here. And we're going to go down to here. And we're going to add 1 to the set. So now I'm going to add 1 to my set. So now my set has a 1 in it. And then if the size of the set is greater than k, then we're going to do this. But the size of the set isn't greater than k. The size of the set is just 1. It's just one thing in here. So we're going to skip this and come back to the top of our loop. So the next iteration in our loop is 1. Nums 1 is equal to 2. That's what's at the position index 1 in the nums array. Then we're going to check, does the set have a 2 in it? No, it doesn't. So we're going to skip this. We're going to add the 2 to the set. So now we got 2 in our set. Is the size greater than k? K is 3. So the size is not greater than k. It's only 2 things in here. So we're going to skip this. Going to go to the top of our loop again. We're going to iterate to index 2. Nums at index 2 is 3. Oops, 3. And then we're going to check, does the set have nums, which is 3, in there? No, it has 1 and 2. It doesn't have it. So we skip that again. Here we add 3 to the set. So now the set has 3 in it. Then we check, is the size greater than k? There's 3 in here and k is 3. It's not greater than, it's equal to, but it's not greater than. So we still skip this again. And we go to the top of our loop again, which this will turn to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. So that means nums at I is 1 now. Finally, does the set have 1 in it? Yes, the set has 1 in it. So we return true. So that gives us the answer to our problem. So we never actually, and this is probably a bad example to use because we never had to use this code here. But this is how this code will run, and that's successful. But what if we did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like test case number 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is 2. This problem gonna take forever to do, but I'm gonna try to go through this quick, just to show the sliding window, because I ain't really show that. So yeah, I'm gonna go through this faster. We're looping through. We get 1 that gets added to the set. We get 2 that gets added to the set. We get 3 that gets added to the set. So we're just going through these and adding them to the set, if you remember. That's what we were doing the first time. The problem is, so we get here and we added 3 to the set. Now we get to this line of code here. This says, is size greater than k? Size is greater than k at this point. 3 is greater than 2. It's 3 things in here is greater than 2. Delete nums I minus k. So currently, I is 0, 1, 2. So I is 2, and k is 2. So 2 minus 2 will give nums 0. Num 0 is 1. It's saying delete 1 from the set. Delete 1 from the set. Bam. So we deleted 1 from the set. That's how the window slides along. And so then the next time we come through here, when I equals to 3, then 0, 1, 2, 3, then nums is going to equal to 1. Is 1 in the set? No, it's not. So add it to the set behind here. And you basically start the thing over again. Now it's like, is set greater than? Yes, it's greater than it. So we need to delete I minus K out of here. I is 3 minus K is 2. So it basically saying delete nums at 1, at index 1, which is 2. So delete 2 out of the set. And so that's how the sliding window thing goes. And so basically you'll never find a duplicate in this thing because it's going to keep sliding this set. So if you see, like, this is why it's called a sliding window technique, because you see how this keeps being like a sliding. This set is this view inside of nums, and you're going to keep sliding that view through. So at first it'll be 1 and 2, then it'll be 2 and 3, then it'll be 3 and 1, then it'll be 1 and 2, then it'll be 2 and 3. And because you're only keeping your set the size it is, then you'll make sure that you only find a duplicate that is the distance of 2. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. Yeah, this is an easy problem on LeetCode, but I feel like any sliding window techniques, when you first starting out, they can be considered like difficult. And so I wouldn't call this one easy, especially starting out. So I'm gonna delete all that. But an interviewer might like that. Actually, you might do that, what I just did in the interview, and that might be it. They might not ask you to run it. So you might even get lucky and do the problem wrong, and as long as you run through it right and it looks like it's right, you can still pass the interview even if you got it wrong. Like if you actually ran it, it wouldn't work. But so sometimes the interviewer just wants to see how you work. They want to see how you problem solve. They want to see how you trace code. And so they might not even really care that if you run it, that it's absolutely correct. But on LeetCode.com, I can run it and I can see that it's correct. So we got case 1, 2, and 3 are correct. And also what LeetCode allows you to do is submit it to all LeetCode against like all other LeetCode submissions. And you get to kind of see how it like stacks up. So this was 76 milliseconds in runtime, beats 91% of users with JavaScript. And then this one is I only use 56 megabytes of memory. It actually seemed like a lot, but it beat 68%. So that was a decent turnout on the runtime and memory usage. The other thing that would happen in the coding interviews, and somebody said, Eric, he said, interviewers want to see how you think and approach problems. Pseudocode goes a long way. Yeah, for sure, man. I think I'm gonna start doing more pseudocode in the before I do the problem. It just takes so much time to do these lives, like even for the easy problems. So I usually skip it, but I do need to start doing it if I'm going to be trying to, show people how these interviews usually go. So thanks for that comment. Somebody said, yeah. Let me see. Oops. Yeah, so just looking at some of these comments, is this LeetCode.com? Yes, LeetCode. Yeah, and so what I was saying was that what they would ask in the interviewers in the interview is also the runtime complexity of your solution, or time complexity of your solution, and they would ask the space complexity of your solution. So for that, you would need to learn Big O notation. It is a kind of a quantifier or a framework around describing what time complexity is and for an algorithm, and what space complexity is for an algorithm. So time complexity is basically how efficient is this algorithm as far as how many operations does it do, worst case, and how does this based on the size of your input. So you say the length of nums is the size of my input, and this K is the size of my input. How does this algorithm scale in relation to the size of the input? If I have a lot of input, does the algorithm get really, really slow and do like exponential amount of operations, or does the algorithm perform well even when the input is high? Does the algorithm perform just as good when the input is big versus when the input is small? Because that's important in a real life scenario where, like, let's say you're running Facebook.com or whatever. You have 5 users, your algorithm might work well. You have 10 billion users. If your algorithm is not efficient and has a bad big old time complexity, then you have a crash. Facebook crashes or whatever. Just using it as an analogy. It's not that simple for Facebook, but I mean, the core of it is the same. That's why Facebook asks these kind of problems at the core of it. That's kind of that's their reason. It's still, these problems are kind of, I don't know. I got my own opinion about leak code problems, but it is what it is. They make sense in that context, I guess. So anyway, let's talk about the time complexity of this problem. What I have as my inputs is nums. So let's call the nums length, the size of nums array, let's call it n. And so basically you want a big old notation. I'm not going to teach big old notation here, but basically it's tied to the size of your input. How many operations, worst case, are you doing to the size of your input? Worst case, I'm going to loop this input n times. Nums length, let's call it n. I'm going to loop n times. So as my problem scales, I'm going to do n operations that are tied to the size of my input. This is not tied to the size of my input. None of this is tied to the size of my input. These are constant operations. These, in big O notation, you do not include the constant operations. They reduce down because at scale, if I had, these would always be constant time, even if I was running 10 billion nums length. And this actually would always run one time, no matter what the size of n is. And so that's why in big O notation, you reduce the size of operations like this, and you kind of estimate based on the size of what's tied to your size of your input. So all that being said, the time complexity of this is big O of n, or what's called linear time. So based on how long the size of my input is how many operations in big O notation that will run. Worst case, I have to loop through this whole array. And so big O notation is kind of hard to understand at first, but it's kind of, you just got to go. I recommend, I think it's dev2.com had a real good article, a string of articles on big O notation. There's YouTube videos you can go and just learn about big O notation and all the different big O notations that you can use, and which ones are considered more optimal than not. And so linear time, or big O of n time, is usually considered a successful, it's usually considered good as far as time complexity. So if you can get that in an interview, if your solution can do that, usually you'll be pretty good. Now, if you do big O of n squared, then that's usually considered non-optimal. In the interview, I might ask you to redo the problem or try to find a solution that's more optimal that you can do in big O of n time, like linear time. So now moving on to space complexity. Space complexity is how much, compared to the size of my input, how much data did I need to store in a data structure. The data structure I'm using here is a set. And I'm using some variables here, like it's really just a set and I. There's let set and let I. That's the only thing I'm using. I is considered constant. If I'm just setting a variable, that's just considered constant space. So that gets reduced in big O notation just like it for space, just like it does for time. The set is what I'm storing these nums and stuff in. And so just think about it. How much would actually get stored in this set worst case? Worst case, remember I'm doing a sliding window thing, right? So worst case is going to be the size of K. And then this is a harder big O notation to do than normal, because actually if nums, you have to look at the constraints. nums. Oh shoot, where the heck am I? Here, over here. Nums can be 1 and K can be 0. So it's really whichever one of these is less. Like, is nums less or is K less? Because if nums is smaller than K, then the only thing you're gonna put inside of the set is the maximum size of nums. What's the heck's wrong with my mouse? Mouse going crazy. Yeah, so nums is, you can only put so many, the size of like nums that you have in the set max. If you have more nums than K, you can only put in K nums because K is the sliding window size. So the actual big O notation space complexity of this is big O of N or K, whichever one is the least. So this is a more complicated big O notation. I think it's written out like big O. Let me see. I think it's written out like this: big O of min between N and K. So like if you say N is nums.length, but you can just give it a variable like N, it's the minimum of between N and K, whichever one's the minimum. That's how much space you're gonna use at worst case. So it just all varies on whether nums is bigger than K and whether K is bigger than nums, like whatever that case is. So that's a more complicated one. I probably could get tripped up on that one in the interview, because I probably would just say, worst case, you're just going to fill up the set with the nums, worst case. And I probably would just say big O of N, or linear space complexity. But it's actually, if nums is very small, then it actually would be my bad. If K is smaller than nums, then it actually would be the size of K because you're doing a sliding window. So it's confusing, man. I'm trying to tell y'all what it is, and I'm still getting confused. So that's a tough one, man. Usually LeetCode, the problems are gonna be like big O of N squared or big O of N for linear. Big O of N squared is quadratic big O complexity. I think it's called quadratic. I think. Dang, I might be butchering that. Y'all let me know if I'm butchering that. But that means like it's basically N times N. And that basically means however much your input, like if you have length of N, your algorithm is running at 2 times the size of its, it's not an efficient algorithm because you're basically doing like double, not even double, you're doing like 2 times the amount of operations on your input than the size of your input is, which is not efficient. So my algorithm basically, every input I have, it just runs like, that specific linear amount of operations. If you're running like a it's like an exponential. It's squared. It's like exponential amount of operations instead of just a linear amount of operations. That's the best way to describe it. So tried LeetCode last week and quickly realized I didn't know as nearly as much as I thought I did. Man, dude, I've been in the industry like 10 years. I had a thing against LeetCode. I was like, I didn't need LeetCode early in my career. The companies I interviewed didn't do LeetCode, because not all companies do LeetCode problems, to be clear. And so I was like, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder or whatever. I was like, man, I'm not doing this stupid LeetCode junk. It doesn't match the jobs. I'm not doing it. If the job asks me to do LeetCode, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not gonna interview with them. And then one day I said, man, I'm not about to be scared of this LeetCode thing. And I started trying to do them. And man, the first few, man, it was like I would spend hours trying to do one easy problem. And that's how it starts, I think, for everybody. Unless you're some kind of savant or some kind of genius or something. But even though I think you just have to do the problems and get used to it and get better. And so, yeah, I felt the same way. And then I got better and better, and even got to the point of actually like passing like a FANG, like big company interview with LeetCode problems, which is something I never thought I'd ever be able to do in my life. And it's one of the biggest accomplishments. I passed a couple of interviews, but like I passed one with one of the big companies. That's when I was like validated. Now I failed some interviews too. Like, don't let people get on this internet and these social media sites and act like they never failed interviews. I failed a bunch too. But when you get those passed, like you kill one of those interviews that's considered one of the like hardest interviews of your life, and you can just kill it. And when you didn't think you could ever get there, that was like one of the best feelings I had professionally ever. So yeah, man, just keep going, keep trying to learn. Real ones fail all the time. Fail equals learn. Appreciate that. You saying that, man. I think that's laterally. Appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. 100% agree. Java is king. Hey, I like Java. I'm tech agnostic, man. I like Java, JavaScript, C Sharp. I use Java at work. It's like one of the big languages we use at work on the back end. What about Python? I haven't used Python yet, man. I know it's crazy because everybody's like Python's like the hot thing to learn. I haven't learned it yet, but I'm gonna do Python soon. Spring Boot, yeah, for Java, that's what we use at work for our Java services. Yeah, man, Python is great. What DE is that? DE. IDE? This is LeetCode.com. So it's where you can practice LeetCode. It's crazy you call them. That's why this interview junk is so stupid, because people literally call it LeetCode problems. It's coding challenges technically, but it's such a game that people go to. They're like, yeah, that's a LeetCode interview. LeetCode is the name of this site, right? But we in the industry call these LeetCode problems commonly, and it's just a game, man. That's why I don't really like LeetCode problems. But you just have to learn them if you want to get some of these jobs. There's certain jobs where you just have to. Yeah. Oh, what kind of computer this is? It's a Mac. If somebody was asking that. Somebody like C++. That was the first language I actually learned. Can you show me past line 13? My bad. Hold on. Shoot. Dang. Now I need to move this down. Here it goes. My bad, y'all. Let me just. Shoot. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit. Yeah. All right. So yeah, zoomed out. And then yeah, I can show the problem too if anybody want to see that. Just answering questions now. Somebody say, God bless you. Hey, appreciate that, man. Do you virtualize VMs on your Mac? Not too much, man. Mac got good recently. Or not recently, but I've been using Mac since like 2011. And when back then you did have to set up a VM because some programs weren't on Mac, but now like for development, you don't even really need to set up VMs unless you need to use Windows for some reason. And I got my job to just send me a Windows machine because I didn't want to do virtualization. Let's see. What language are used the most? JavaScript's one of the most popular. I think Python's one of the most used as well. Up and coming. There's a lot of languages. Java's heavily used. Even though people don't talk about it on the internet like crazy. Well, people talk about it a lot, but it's like a lot. I feel like the internet, the social media is more like leaning toward Python and JavaScript, mostly what I see. But Java is like heavily used by a lot of enterprise companies, big companies. Almost blocked somebody. LeetCode is hard as F. Yeah, man, it is. I think I answered all those questions. Any questions on Instagram? Man, this was really good. First time joining. I hope you keep these going. Hey, that's the kind of stuff I need. I think this Coco, appreciate that. I see you all around Instagram all the time. So I really appreciate you joining and saying that, because that keep me motivated. Because I lost the motivation. I did these like all early this year and last year, and then I just fell off until like last week when I did my first one in a long time. So I'm going to keep doing these, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, somebody said stop talking and code. I'm done code, man. If you was on here, I've been code on here for like 40 minutes. Like this I'm like practicing these for myself to stay, you got to stay practice with them because you'll lose it, man. I when I first got back on here last week after like maybe 6 months of not doing them, it was little tiny things I had forgot. And it was like, man, it was slowing me down. I was like, yeah, I got to practice these every now and then. So y'all helping me practice, and I'm hoping I'm helping somebody on the other end of this. And it actually helped me be more confident in interviews. I started doing this when I was interviewing last year. And doing this in front of I think when I first started getting on TikTok, man, sometimes TikTok will have like 300 people. I don't know what it is about TikTok, but they just throw 300 people in your live like when you first turn it on. And like a lot of them had stayed in there that first time. and I'm sitting there doing a leak code problem in front of like 300 people, and then I'm streaming to all these other channels too. And so that kind of builds up your confidence. Like you go in an interview, interview's different. Now don't get me wrong, interview a different beast, but it gives you get comfortable talking in front of people, explaining yourself in front of 300 people. Or right now I think it's probably like 50 or 60. And then answering questions, being distracted, being nervous, it kind of helps to train you a little bit for the interview, and I'm practicing. So I'm like killing all these birds at one time. So I think that's pretty cool. What are you using to stream software wise? It's OBS. And then you can stream OBS and Restream. Not I ain't gonna lie. It's this other thing called Restream. You use OBS on your computer, and then it's this service called Restream that allows you to stream to all these different social media sites. So I'm streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok's the one I got my phone. So TikTok's probably like the worst one. So actually, yeah, so I'm blind. I'm talking to you on TikTok. TikTok, I'm actually using my phone. Got it pointed at the computer. But the rest of the services I'm streaming on Restream and using OBS. TikTok won't give me a stream key. So I dropped my first C++ class because I didn't understand any tip. Yeah, man, it's hard, man. It's tough when you first start, but you got to just keep going. Don't quit. Just keep going, man. It's hard to learn how to code first because you're like, before you can get to this leak code stuff, you kind of got to learn how to code first. And it's tough, man. But just stay motivated. Being in school and being in a class is probably the best way to learn because it forces you. Or let me not say that. That's wrong. Now, I ain't going to say the best way to learn. It's a very good way to learn. Everybody learn different. Some people self-learn better than they get taught to learn. Is this JavaScript? Yes, it's JavaScript. Yeah, that's why I got my camera at the Mac screen. Much respect. Have a good night. Appreciate you joining, man. Did you go to school? Yeah, I went to college and got a computer science degree. So I learned how to code in school. So that's why I'm never gonna be on this train where people saying like, don't go to school, don't go to school. I mean, school is still a great option to learn how to code. Like, you don't have to go to school. You can use boot camps and you can self-teach. And nothing wrong with those options either. So it's depending on how you learn. The best way to learn is the one that's best for you and the one that you're going to stay motivated and not quit. Because if you go to school and you think that's the best way, but then you quit, then it's not the best way for you. If you self-teach, you think, okay, I'm not going to pay all this money for school. I'm going to self-teach. I can just teach myself. But if you don't have anybody holding you accountable and you suck at keeping yourself accountable, then it's not the best way for you. So just don't. The main thing is pick whatever way you want to learn the code, get a degree or not. But like, don't lie to yourself about like your motivation. Like some people, you got to know how you learn and what keeps you motivated. How often you do these live streams? I'm going to try to do them every week. I want to move up to 2 or 3 times a week, but man, it's a lot. So I'm going to try to at least do them every Friday or something like that. And try to do, but I post them on my channel too. I post a bunch of stuff on my channel. What I usually do is I do these streams and then I'll go and record a shorter version of it because I do a lot of talking and trying to help on these streams. But what I also do is re-record just a shorter version where I just go straight to the answer. And it's like maybe like 3 or 4 minute video. So if you look on my channel, you can see a bunch of like leak code videos that are shorter and to the point, and on my YouTube as well. And yeah, follow, man. If y'all like, want to see more programming content, if you just get into tech, you just learn how to program, whatever, or you just interested in kind of stuff, or you want to watch me struggle, or watch me mess around on here, every now and then, just, follow me, DM me, whatever, have a conversation, talk with each other, follow each other, shoot on here. It ain't just, it's a community. So I just like when people, connect with each other as well, because all need the help in this thing, man. Whether you're 1 year in or you're like 10 years in, like me, you're always learning something. These leak code problems, I got to the point I can do hard ones, but I can't do all the hard ones. So I'm going to start doing some hard ones on here, but shoot, I'm going to be on, that might be like a 2-hour live if I'm like over explaining like I normally do. Because in an interview, them hard problems, you got 45 minutes. You got to get through them hard problems. And so you almost got to like time yourself when you're practicing. So Yeah, don't listen to people telling you not to get a degree. Appreciate that. I think that's Sharice. Sharice L. Yeah, appreciate you saying that. Yeah, don't listen to people telling you not to get a degree. Yeah, don't. It's like I'm telling you, it's a they force you to learn it. Like, and yeah, you might drop out a couple classes or whatever. I dropped out some classes, but I got through that thing and got the degree, and I learned how to code from it. And that was the best way for me to learn. Cause if I would have tried to self learn back then when I was in like a young dude, I wouldn't have. I mean, I wouldn't have did it. I would have quit, or I would have just fell off. But it's something that snaps, man. Like coding, like it's hard, and then something like clicks for me, at least how it happened, where it just turned around and it just became easier or something. I don't know. It's like you just get it, you understand it, and then you start to want to self teach. Like then now I can self teach. Like I watch YouTube videos sometimes, but a lot of times I read a lot of documentation from like companies, and I do a lot more reading than I watch videos. I don't know. That's the way I learn. So, whether it's reading like, book or article or blog post or documentation, like that's kind of more how I learn. My mentor is 15 years in and he learns beside me at times. Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing about tech. Don't get into tech if you're going to stop learning at some point. The worst people, not the worst people, but some of the worst developers that I work with, like, are the ones that kind of like get stuck or get real stuck in one piece of tech, don't want to learn something new, get real stubborn, especially when, we start to get older. Because now I'm an older guy. It's crazy because I came in, I was a young dude, junior dev, and now I'm like on the senior side, and it's like, it's crazy to look back and just be like, dang, man, like, it's like, don't feel like that long ago that I was like just coming in, and I still kind of feel that way. Like because you're always learning. But yeah, I'm like kind of on the senior side now. So it's crazy. I did the self-taught boot camp route. The work never ends on either side. Best way to put it. Like, it don't matter how you learn, however you learn it, self-taught boot camp. First of all, you always going to be self-taught to a certain degree. When you get to work, you're going to start self-teaching whether you want to or not when you actually get to the job. So all right, just pick the best route for you. But what I'm trying to say is I don't like when people down either one. I don't like when people try to say, hey, boot camp suck, or when people try to say, hey, college sucks. College got its own problems, but separate that from learning the code in college. That if you want to talk about college as far as like the institution itself of college and like student loans and stuff, bash that. Yeah, I understand. But like, I'm not a fan. You can bash what you want. You got free speech, whatever. But I'm not a fan of people bashing going to college to learn the code, because it is still a good way to learn the code. Like, it forces you. They give you a curriculum. You got office hours. You paying them to help you learn, and it kind of pushes you into it, and it makes you go to this class every day. When you're trying to self-teach, sometimes it's a little, the motivation loses, or your life gets in the way, or you don't go to class because you ain't scared to fail. So you don't teach yourself because you ain't scared to fail or something like that. So, and then boot camps are great because you get through it really quickly. But they do have to skip things in order for you to get through it really quickly. So they're more or less, I like boot camps because they're more practical. They teach you exactly what you're going to do on the job most of the time. But school teaches you more like the theoreticals. Like, school going to teach you big O notation. Most of the time, boot camp's not going to teach you like big O notation and like the principles and things like that. So, which some of that stuff you might need to know. So you might have to do like you might have to augment with some self-teaching to learn things that they didn't teach. What is the benefit of LeetCode? Is it to do well in the interview, or does it actually improve you? It's a little bit of both, man. I got opinions about LeetCode. I think the LeetCode structure originally came from Google, and a lot of the other big companies copied it. I think it's gotten to a point where it's become more like gamified, and people are just kind of LeetCode hacking. They go and just memorize a bunch of LeetCode problems, and then, you get better in that process, but it can be kind of gamed where like, the people ask you a LeetCode problem that you've done before. Did you really do anything that cool that you went and memorized the LeetCode problem? So I do think it helps improve you, especially when you start talking about why did I say that? That was weird. Big O notation. When you start talking about big O notation, it's that does improve you, because you at work, you need to understand the complexity of your algorithms, the efficiency of your algorithms. Like that is something you need to understand. Like I've been at work and seen people and myself cause problems when a leak code, when an algorithm at work wasn't optimal. So like think about yeah, dude said talk about what? Yeah, I don't know what the heck I don't know why the heck I did that, man. Like, but anyway, yeah, like one time at work, I give an example. We had a loop and some logic and an algorithm that updated the database. If that when that algorithm we had like an algorithm that was really bad and it kept hammering the database, like it kept updating the database like crazy. And so that added stress on the database. The database fell over and crashed or froze up and locked up. And now we got a bug, we got an issue, and everybody's awoke at, 3:00 in the morning. If the algorithm was more optimal as far as like big O notation or optimization or its run, that wouldn't have happened. The database would have had less stress on it. So these problems are really simple. They're not, you wouldn't typically do these kind of problems on the job, but it's mixed in, the concepts behind it is mixed into your work. But does leak code 1-to-1 match with what you do at work? No, it don't. Like I might go to work tomorrow and move a div, 2 pixels over. You know what I'm saying? Or I may write a document, or I may add a button to a page, or I may do a back end task where I make a new API endpoint. So it's kind of a trade-off. Like you learn how to do the interviews with it, but you also conceptually learn a lot of things too. And I do think it makes you a sharper coder. I'd say a sharper coder for sure, because you get really fast at like coding and like in an optimal way. So it's a little bit of both. Are you a SW? Yes, I'm a professional software developer at like a mid-sized company. It's like a chat company that provides chat for like bigger companies like Verizon and Home Depot and United Airlines, just like random. Like if you chat on any of these big sites, it's probably using the chat window that I work on. So yeah, I've been in the industry working professionally as a software engineer. I'm a senior now, working toward principal, hopefully within the next year. Principal engineer is like kind of one of the higher levels that you can get to. How old are you? I don't even want to say my age, man. I'm in my 30s. I'll say that. I'm older. Why is it on light mode? Hey man, I get sick of dark mode, man. I like it to switch. I switch it every now and then. Some nights I have it dark mode, some nights I won't. The one thing dark mode kind of do is, you have white text on the dark mode. I got these new Apple Studio monitors. They got such a high contrast that white text, it be like bleeding or something. I can't remember what effect they call it. But yeah, it's crazy. You definitely make bank then. Yeah, man, I mean, tech industry in general is not even just SDEs. Tech industry in general, man, it's a good profession to get into if you want to make a decent or high income. And then the longer you're in it, you get, you move around, you get other offers. The salaries, man, could just go crazy. Now the job market's a little weird right now, so people ain't really just going ham like they were like in 2020, 2021, 2022. But tech is still a great industry to jump into. It's interesting. It's work now. When I go to work, like I get annoyed just like everybody else. I work hard. If a problem happens, we might be up all night. You have on-call shifts. So it's not this perfect cushy job like everybody try to make it be. And it's hard mental problems. Like it stress you out mentally. Like you have a problem to solve and you sitting there at 3 a.m. and if you don't solve this problem, you're gonna be sitting there until 11 o'clock where you back in meetings, back at work again, and through the clock again until somebody can cover for you or until you solve the problem. So it can be tough, man. But yeah, I never traded for the world. It's a good career. You make a lot of money. It's interesting work. I get to see my stuff. I get to use my stuff. Like I go to chat with Verizon to talk about my build, and I'm using my own product. Like that's pretty dope. So yeah, it's cool stuff, man. What advice do you have to a new engineer? Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions to your manager and the senior engineers. Even if you get on their if you think you're getting on their nerves, ask questions, because a lot of these companies you go to, they don't have the best documentation. They don't have the best training programs. And no question is a dumb question. Don't do like some engineers do when they're new. Come in, get a task, be scared to ask questions, disappear for 2 weeks, come back at the end of the sprint, and then did it completely wrong. And then they be mad at you because you didn't ask a question. So just ask the question up front. Try to ask good questions, but don't try to be annoying. But like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Would be if you're new, because you're gonna learn more in this first year. When you first start a job, then you have the whole previous time you've been prepping and learning and stuff like that. You're gonna learn more in that first year than you ever will probably in the rest of your life. Like, for sure, you're gonna learn how to learn. I kind of like the live chat, kind of like the live chat on those websites. Yeah, exactly what it is, live chat. Probably giving up too much information about my job, but I'm not saying nothing good or bad about them. I like my job, so why is it on light mode? My eyes. Somebody tripping out on there. Yeah, yeah, oh man, I ain't even gonna read that comment, but it was funny. I memorize all the known algorithms and data structures known to man. When am I ready for Tucson? Yeah. Yeah, somebody said sus is F. Yeah, I don't know why the heck I said that, man. I just tripped out. I don't know what the heck I was saying. Let's see whatever. Some more comments here. Boot camps taught me how to teach myself to be honest. Yeah, I think that's what boot camps do. Boot camps give you a little bit more leeway on how you learn, to teach yourself how to learn. Yeah. Oh yeah, picking the right company is important. You don't want to get pigeonholed into a company that's not helping you learn. It's hard to pick the right company. A lot of times you got to move around. And a lot of times you got to move around to get more money. It's just the sad truth of it. Any advice on how to get better at LeetCode? I've only completed 4 easy in 2 weeks. Hey man, that's how I start. It starts tough, man. Keep going, keep practicing. I would suggest there's other tools out here. You have to pay for them, but there's other tools like Algo Expert that I've used. Algo Monster is my favorite. It's called Algo Monster. That will teach you the foundations of problems, and it will teach you the patterns in these problems, and it will order the patterns by ROI on how much they actually show up in real interviews, and you learn the patterns. And then once you got these patterns in your tool set, then it becomes easier to solve problems, any problem, rather than trying to just memorize a bunch of LeetCode problems, if that makes sense. So then you can kind of remember the patterns and use them, apply them to solutions instead of trying to just remember solutions directly. Because you're going to eventually tap out when you're trying to remember 100, 200, 300 LeetCode problems. But if you remember 15 patterns, it's a lot easier to apply those patterns. Then when you're looking at a problem, just like when I was doing this problem earlier, I was like, do I need to use a set? Do I need to use a map? Like, I know these kind of like patterns. Do I need to use a sliding window technique? I know these techniques and patterns in data structures and algorithms fundamentally that I can just run through as I'm trying to like figure out the solution to a problem. And sometimes you might get in an interview where you ain't never seen that problem before and you trying to work through it. And sometimes like the interviewer will try to help you, but you need to give them something. So sometimes having those patterns in your tool belt, in your mind, when you start spurting them off, like I've been in the interview, I just started spurting off different patterns. Like, I wonder if I should use sliding window, or should I use 2-pointer? Or is this a dynamic programming thing? Or is this? Or should I use binary search? Or should I use breadth first search? And then like the person stopped me and was just like, oh yeah, I think 2-pointer will be good here. Like sometimes they'll help you out if you give them a little, it's like a little manipulative type thing, but sometimes they'll help you out. But that's what I would suggest to get better at LeetCode, is learning data structures and algorithms fundamentally, which sounds like some really simple advice, but that's what it is, man. I would use Algo Monster or Algo Expert or some sort of thing. I saw that. Good luck, you got this. You're actually learning instead of memorizing random problems. Yep, that's the better way to do it. Do you ever use AI to assist you? Yeah, I started using ChatGPT pretty heavily when it first came out. Was that like the new year? It was like sometime early this year. Whenever it first like got all that hype. And I've been using it ever since. Yeah, I use it at work sometimes to help me write documentation. Sometimes I use it to help me solve like bugs and stuff. Sometimes I help me. Dang, I can't talk, man. I've been talking too long. I use it to help me scaffold code sometimes. Like I'm working on something new, just like scaffold out the code. I rarely use it to just do everything for me because like still gets a lot of stuff wrong. And plus, ChatGPT doesn't have the context of the company or my side projects. And so a lot of times I have to give it very specific questions like help me with this little piece, and then I plug it back in and modify it so that it fits my company's code base or it fits my side project's code base, if that makes sense. I think the biggest thing I used it for is I was doing this. If you look at my channel, it's probably somewhere in there where I'm doing this mobile app on my own for a client. It's called Foamlicious. It's about, some of y'all probably know about foam posits. They're like the Penny Hardaway Nike shoes that are real popular. And it's an app that just showcases all those shoes and tells you which the new ones coming out, what the release dates are and stuff like that. I basically got ChatGPT to re-platform, or I told it to like help me scaffold out the beginning of building that app in React Native, because it was like in Xamarin before and I wanted to move it to React Native to be more modern. And it basically gave me like a full layout with different tabs that I needed and all the different like starting buttons I needed. And then I continue from there. Like when I used to do that, it used to take me days to scaffold out the start of the app. And so being able to do that, dang, where did that little thumb thing came from? I ain't never seen that before. But yeah, I used to take me days to do that. I did that in like a night. I had the whole start of the app done with all the different tabs I needed, the home screen and stuff like that. So I use it to assist me, like you said, like you asked, not to do everything, but to assist me. And yeah, don't get me started on like whether it's gonna take people's jobs and all that stuff. When I see LeetCode, I click. I don't know if that means you click away or you click on it. Like you trying to run from LeetCode, or you trying to see more LeetCode. Curious on what work-life balance looks like to you. It seems like the higher your position, the more work you have, the less time you have available. So that's a good question. I think that's, hey, it's me, Coco, Instagram. So I would say it depends on what direction you go. So usually as an SWE or as like a software engineer, you have SD junior, you have mid-level, and you have senior level. And then you get a choice at most companies. You either go down the management path, you start being a software development engineer, or you go down like a solo individual contributor path where you start becoming a principal engineer, staff engineer, some places it's called. And then you can move up to be a distinguished engineer. Those are the ones that like consider like you invented Alexa or something, like, or you invented Siri or something, like you really made an impact globally, like bigger than the company, and you become like a distinguished engineer or whatever. I think I've seen on Twitter some Microsoft distinguished engineers on there that built some pretty cool stuff. But I'm saying all that to say, I think if you move down the management track, you do start to lose a lot of your time and work-life balance. I did the management track for 1 year. I was a manager. I was managing like 15 engineers. I ain't like it too much. It took a lot of my time. It was a lot of meetings. I didn't get to code that much. You're not supposed to. I'm supposed to do more delegation. And I felt like it was like being a manager. I could have been a manager at like, anywhere and done that same type of skills and work. And it just had a lens of software development over it. It was a management job in tech instead of like a programming job in tech, if that makes sense. Like it just felt like just any kind of management job I could have just been doing anywhere. And I'm in tech to be a programmer and like build stuff. And so I switched a year ago to be a single, individual contributor. I didn't like being a manager too much. So it was a lot of things I missed though about it. Like I'm gonna say I didn't like it that much. I'm gonna say I like being an individual contributor and have my hands on the code more than being a manager. Because there was a lot of things I liked about being a manager too. Like I liked being able to get people raises and being able to see their career forward and being able to kind of like see the big picture of the team and like have people delegated to do different things and see them happy and see wins and successes and kind of getting the credit for the success of the whole team. Because you get the credit for everything you ask anybody to do. You basically get the credit, which is kind of cool, you know. But they get their own credit too. Like you get to promote them and push them up. If you're a good manager, you push them up, you know, ahead of you. And so I like to lead. I like to lead from within. I got good reviews when I was a manager, but I just like doing the code and stuff more because, and I know that's going outside of your question, but I'd say I got a lot more free time being an individual contributor. Because it's less meetings and less administrative work. And I wouldn't call it free time. I guess I'd call it what's the word? More async time, more what's that word for like autonomous. Like you're more autonomous. Like you're not tied to everything. Like manager, you gotta like be here for this meeting, you gotta do this for the team. You gotta have one-on-ones with every team member. They want a raise. This person's quitting. This person like you gotta worry about all this different stuff. This person didn't come to work today, so now I gotta get somebody to do their work for them. Like it's all that kind of stuff that's outside of tech that I just really wasn't interested in. I like more of the tech stuff, but you know it was cool. And so I'm still busy. I'm probably still just as busy, be honest, but I feel like I have more control over my schedule, which makes me happier. So it feels like I got better work-life balance. So yeah, the work-life balance I would say is better. You got a bunch of meetings and stuff and late meetings and stuff, your work-life balance gonna feel terrible because you feeling like you working late and you're stuck in a meeting. But me, I can say, okay, let's say I can't sleep and I want to just finish something from 8 to 10 at night. I finish that, then the next day I don't have to worry about it, and I can maybe go take a walk outside for an hour or two or something, in that time that I spent the last night, because I got more autonomy and more flexibility, which makes my work-life balance feel better. So that was a long-winded way to answer that short question. Do you like using hash maps for LeetCode in JS? Oh, that's a good question. I like using the actual built-in map object or built-in map data structure because it has like those built-in functions like has and I think it's called set and remove. But sometimes I like using objects too, like just as a hash map. If you look it up online, like the difference between JavaScript hash map and object, there are very small differences, like in the runtime complexity, like to search for an item in a hash map versus a JavaScript object is the same. It's like big old one constant time. So you could actually use either one. I just like how it looks when you're using like a set or a map, because you can use like these built-in has functions and like delete functions and stuff like that. So that's a good question. I use both though. It depends on what I'm doing, but sometimes you actually absolutely have to use a object instead of a hash map. So yeah. Do you have recommendations for job sites? LinkedIn, man. I ain't going crazy on a bunch of different job sites no more. I'm more focused. I'll use the LinkedIn apply, hit up recruiters on LinkedIn. The farther you go in your career, you'll start noticing that like you have to spend less time on job sites, and like recruiters will start hitting you up more. So you're never really in a lack for like trying to like just go to random sites. So last time I was interviewing, I went to LinkedIn and just filled out a bunch of applications there because it's like a one-click thing. And your LinkedIn presence needs to be like spot on, when you're trying to get a job in tech, especially, but really in any industry. Dang, somebody said no video. There's no video on dang, that's crazy. On Twitch, there's no video. Dang. Let's see what they're saying. Dang, my bad. That's crazy. There's no video. Hopefully it starts working. Uh, anyway, yeah. So I think what was I saying? Yeah, the job sites. I use LinkedIn to apply for jobs on there because I feel like the recruiters are already on LinkedIn. So if you apply for a job there, it's like more connected. Blind has a good job site. It's this lady on Twitter. I can't remember her name, but she has this thing called like the Black Tech Pipeline that I actually got some interviews through that. Somewhere where else I get jobs sent from LinkedIn, and somewhere else I get jobs from Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a good place to get. I think that's where it is. Glassdoor, because Glassdoor you can see like reviews for companies and stuff like that. I think they send out job postings too. So I use like I don't know. I'm probably weird. I use just a. I usually get hit up by recruiters a lot just because I've been around so long. Could you teach ethical hacking? Could you teach ethical hacking? Would I teach it? Could I teach it? Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm not like a hacker. I wouldn't say that's my like focus or my expertise. But because of the job I work and the apps I try to make on my own, you got to learn a bit about hacking and how to protect yourself. So I probably could teach the ethical hacking to a certain degree with what I know. If I really wanted to do it, like and like research into it and try to do it, I probably could. But I like more or less like working on like apps and like public facing stuff. Like that's kind of my joy that I get with programming. So, do you completely work at home? Yeah, we're remote. The pandemic sent us all home. I used to work in the office for probably like this first 7 years of my career. The last 3 has been since the pandemic has been working remote from home. So I work in this room. This side of my desk, I got this like long. If you look at my content, you probably can see a post of it. But I got this long desk in here, and I got my work stuff on that side, and I got my personal stuff on this side. So I got like a Mac set up over here, and then I got my MacBook stuff over there for my job. So I keep it completely separate. I don't want to get mixed up at all. I don't do personal stuff on my work stuff, and I don't do work stuff on my personal stuff. So except my cell phone. That's about it. So yeah, any site to practice understand algorithms, I'll say Algo Monster and Algo Expert. I suggest Algo Monster first. It's a little bit of it's a little pricey. I think you got to pay like $100 for lifetime access. But Algo Monster is good, man. That's what helped me make the breakthrough. That's what helped me pass a bunch of interviews. The interviews that I did, I definitely can attribute a lot of it to Algo Monster. Like passing the one, I passed the interview with Amazon, and I know a lot of the problems, the concepts I learned was like to do those freaking coding challenges and system design. And man, that made me think I need to do some system design stuff on here too, live, because that's the one part that people have trouble with too. Is like part of the interview is a system design interview. Algo Monster. Yeah, exactly. Algo Monster, one word, Algo Monster. Yeah. I think there were technical interviews during the Roman Empire. Have you gotten the AI stuff, embeddings, vector databases? I have not got that deep into it. Like, I think the deepest I got into it is like looking into integrating ChatGPT in some of my personal projects, side projects, or like OpenAI or whatever. That's probably as far as I'm going to get for right now. But I think at some point I think we're all going to get pushed into learning much more technically about the AI stuff and machine learning stuff. So eventually I'll get there. I haven't yet. Because my job at work, I don't work on a team that works in the AI stuff. We just utilize the AI stuff that other teams work on in our project, our product. So I don't know the deep technical parts of it. Which is fine. You can't know everything, but eventually I'll definitely probably get some exposure to it. Do you think there were technical interviews during the Roman Empire? I don't think so. Probably some sort of interview similar in structure and concept, but I mean, Coder or Raleigh? Is that a Coder or Riley? Is that a tool to help you learn algorithms or something? I'm guessing that's what it is. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get off of here in a little bit. I've been on here probably I've been on here a long time. Probably like an hour and a half maybe. So yeah, I'm probably gonna drop off here pretty soon. Maybe answer a couple more questions. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I think I'm gonna start to end it. I appreciate y'all joining. I've been answering so many questions. It's been probably like 30 minutes since I was even doing the problem I was doing. But I'm gonna do more of these. I'm gonna try to do these at least once a week, maybe more. I got other content on my channel, funny stuff, informational stuff, educational stuff, to learn how to code and just about programming in general. Somebody said, can you run this program before you go? Yeah. So if you pull this up, I'm gonna run it again. Basically, test case 1, test case 2, and test case 3 all passed. So everything worked properly. So I passed all test cases. I got the expected output for all 3. So yeah, because if I keep talking, I'm gonna lose my voice. But follow me on all the channels. I'm on TikTok. I'm blanking out. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I go live on Twitch. I go live on all of those different channels at the same time. So follow me anywhere you want to go on those. If you want to watch me somewhere else live, you can jump on one of those. Or you want to just see my other content there, follow, DM me. If you DM me, we have a conversation. If I see you a program, I usually try to follow back. Just try to build a community here and just talk with people. And just try to help people as best I can. So I appreciate y'all joining in, watching. Let's get better at these coding challenges. Get better at coding. Just try to when this job market turn around, just try to be ready and just try to get these jobs out here. Try to get to the money. Try to get to the success. Try to get to these technical projects. I'm gonna start sharing some side project stuff too, because that's one of my dreams is to get like a real business going behind one of my side projects. So maybe y'all can join me in that experience too. I'm gonna come back on here. This was JavaScript. Somebody asked that. I'm done coding it now. This was contains duplicates 2 from KG.codes. I'm gonna jump off. I'm gonna have a good night. Hope y'all do too. And I'll see y'all in the next video, hopefully next week. Appreciate it. Yeah. See y'all next time.